second maybe rotate, first, second, so that way you both have an opportunity to answer the question first. I will start, this is an administration question. As a newly elected or re-elected board member, what steps would you take to restore the public's confidence in our public schools? Ben?
Well, thank you very much for this question. This is a very important question. And it's something that I've dealt with as a JCPS student, as an aspiring teacher, and as a lifelong resident in my community in Southwest Louisville. Inspiring confidence in our public schools begins at a person-to-person level. I believe if we do more outreach in our community, we engage more with our community, and we make it ourselves more easily accessible to members of our community, we'll start to see that confidence rise. Time and time again, when I come to the board meetings, and I've attended every board meeting since filing in August, and before that as a JCPS student as well, I hear talk about data and numbers, and not so much talk about people. I'd like to see a more people-driven JCPS, and when we believe in people and we engage on a people-to-people level, I believe we'll start to see more confidence in our school district.
Okay, Keisha?
Thank you for the question. In order to restore confidence in the administration, I do also believe that we have to have better communication. We have to stick with what we say. We're going to lay out groundwork. We have to follow up with it. Be firm. Make sure that we are reaching out to the parents, give them different ways to communicate with us. Make sure they understand, not just send information to them, but make sure they have an understanding of the information as well. Also, I would say that they would need to be more transparent with the data, because a lot of times data can be manipulated to fit whatever agenda that one is trying to push, but not just showing the data, but find out, how they got to that data and what it really means, instead of just showing them charts so people can really understand what they're reading and how to understand the test scores and what they mean and different things like that.
Okay. Let me just skip over to a data question since we brought up data a little bit. There's been a lot of talk about the quality of data that the district has been reporting to the state and to the public, that's being used to guide decisions and recommendations. Does the quality of the data and how it is being reported to this community and to the state concern you?
I would say that there was a time, just not too long ago, that it would seem as though they were not reporting the data as accurately as they could, and I would attest that to different schools and different people reporting different things. So there was maybe not a clear understanding of what they needed, so people were not reporting all the way out, and it comes back around that data was missing when it's really just misreported. So I feel as though since the state has, kind of stepped in, it's getting better, it's becoming more transparent. They're trying to report the data more accurately and make sure that they all are reporting the same type of way so we can get a better understanding of it.
The current situation with JCPS data is a point of crisis, and a point of crisis in public perception of Jefferson County schools. The data that's been reported for this year has been questioned to the point to where we ask ourselves, is it valuable? Can we trust it? In public policy, if we have to even ask that question, is it valuable? Can it be trusted? The answer is no. Once public perception has been tainted, we cannot gain faith in public perception. With that, we begin anew. We have an audit, and we have an external group take a look at our data and our data collection systems. I would advocate having an audit of current data in order to take a look and see if there were any wrongdoings or malintent in the manipulation of that data. I would also recommend scrapping the current data in favor of new data that would be overseen by a third party and a disinterested person.
How would you rate, this is for both of you, how would you rate the superintendent's performance thus far? Would you renew her contract if it were up for renewal today? Ms. Allen?
If it was up to renewal today, I would renew her contract, because I feel as though the problems in JCPS, she inherited some of those, and although there are things that we can do better, I feel as though the current superintendent is making strides to make it better. She realizes when something is not working, she does scrap it and she looks for a new idea. You can't expect people to fix things overnight or wave a magic wand and problems to go away. And changing administration over and over again does not really fix the problem, because the new person coming in as well is going to inherit that problem. So I would renew her contract as of right now to give her more opportunity to prove herself that she can
seriously question Dr. Hargan's leadership, and while I understand that one cannot come in and wave a magic wand, Dr. Hargan's has had 6 years to wave a wand, and I haven't seen it happening. As a Jefferson County Public School student, a proud product of this district, a recent 2010 graduate of Atherton High's Education Academy, I have not seen the amount of turmoil that I've seen in this district over my 25 years of life, being a student from kindergarten to the 12th grade. I seriously question that leadership, and I furthermore question the leadership of any head of any organization that would say that maintaining a high quality pay for one of the most valuable resources of this district's educators, is not warranted, somehow must be lessened. I do not ascribe to that form of leadership, and I do think it is time for a change.
What are your priorities for JCPS in the coming year? Why and how do you select these issues? If you say, basically, what are some of your priorities and why? You can start if you'd like.
Yes, thank you. Just recently, I attended the Southwest Community Festival off of Dixie Highway in my district in Valley Station. And time again, we spoke with probably over 1,000 people that day. Time and time again, I'm hearing the issue of discipline, so much so that's even affecting our district's bus drivers. As a matter of fact, in a recent piece published, I believe, by WDRB, it was stated that since the JCPS Student Discipline Code was revised, we've had a 26% increase in discipline problems across the board. In an era where we focus so intently on the problem of bullying, we have students reporting bullying on a daily basis in our schools, and that, quite frankly, is unacceptable. In order to create an environment where students can learn, we have to create a safe environment, and it's evident based upon the most recent study released that 26% increase in behavior problems, that is not being achieved.
So behavior would be when you're addressing discipline or trying to direct the district to address this discipline and behavior issue would be one of your top priorities.
Yes, ma'am, that would be a top priority, in addition to increasing communication and respect from the board to members of the community at large. Another thing that I would like to see happen, attending as many board meetings as I do, I see the system as largely undemocratic, where one is slated to come in on a Tuesday afternoon, a school night for teachers and for students, wait throughout an entire meeting that sometimes goes from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, to then only have 3 minutes to express their concerns. I would also work to make this a more democratic board and a board that's more receptive to the opinions of the citizens we serve.
Ms. Allen.
The main concern that I have would be the student assignment plan. I don't currently think that the student assignment plan, the way it is servicing the students, because they are getting bused to different locations. I feel as though a neighborhood school would better serve the population, because many of our parents or many of our students, they may not have the abilities to get to and from school if they were a shortage of bus drivers, or if they wanted to participate in an after-school activity, or if the parent had to come pick the child up because they were sick. So I think the student assignment plan needs to be reviewed, and we need to get back to more neighborhood schools, to where the schools are not funded based on the location, but they're funded more equitably based on the needs of the students in the area. Another main issue that just came up that I recently just seen was the widening of the student achievement gap. It appears that the African American students are, for lack of a better term, being left behind more and more, and the achievement gap has widened in the last 4 years. So I would like to see that become a smaller gap. I would like them to be more aligned with the rest of the students. So that is one of my biggest concerns with the student achievement gap of the African American students and student assignment plan.
You guys each, this particular district represents a specific part of the county and the city. How will you balance the needs of your specific community, people in the community, with the needs of the overall district? You can start first if you like.
Well, my community would always take precedence in the decisions that I'm making. I'm always going to look to them to see what they need to make sure that I am representing them properly. What I would do is present the needs of my community to the board and hope that we can blend those in, because because I would say that most districts are similar in the needs because they're all students that all need to be served. So I feel as though we can blend the needs of the district and my community together and take care of them.
I'm a lifelong resident of Southwest Jefferson County, and I've served as an advocate for Southwest Jefferson County on numerous issues throughout my young life. But I'm also a part of a number of civic groups that span throughout the city of Louisville, also throughout the United States. And if it's one lesson that I've learned time and time again, it's the lesson of educated compromise, also the lesson of cooperation. If I am going to sway my fellow board members up on this panel to support initiatives in Southwest Louisville schools, there will of course have to be give and take. I have to learn the needs of their schools in their districts, and they will have to learn the needs of schools within my district. I would serve as I would serve to implement educated compromise, but still with the needs of my students first.
I'd like to move on to facilities. I'm not sure what, clearly the district, I recently reported the $900 million of facility needs that JCPS needs. And what do you think the district should do to address facilities improvement, not just in your district, but throughout the entire system? And you can start first.
One gap I'm seeing in Jefferson County, as I've been in schools throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky over the past 2 years, is a lack in technology. In particular schools, every school has a smart board. Schools have document cameras. Schools even have microphones that teachers can wear around their neck now and projects their voice out into the class. I think that we need to start with digging through our budget, seeing how we can use our budget to better the technology in our district. It's 2016. Students have to be prepared to use this technology in the boardroom, in the classroom, should they choose to become a teacher, or in any other profession for that matter. One thing I would also look into is the building of new schools, or at least renovations of current schools. In my district currently, Valley High School underwent a quite nice renovation. PRP is currently undergoing a renovation, as is Greenwood Road Elementary. But when I drive around and I look at some of the older schools in my district, especially some of the elementary schools, they don't look like good places of learning. They don't look like they've been taken care of. And that can have quite a big impact on the student. When I see new schools being built in East Louisville, I have to stop and question why are not new schools being built in South Louisville.
When it comes to the facilities, I would say before we begin to build any schools in any part of Jefferson County, we must first get our schools up to par. Before we spend money and filter it into any part, we have to look at the biggest needs of each school, see where the biggest gaps may be, like Foster's water problem, just for instance. It's not my district, I'm just giving that as an example. We have to assess it and see where the problems are and really try to knock out the bigger ones first and then work our way to the small ones. Renovate all of our schools before we begin building new ones, because it's taken away from the opportunity for us to take care of the schools that we currently have and we're building new facilities.
Describe your personal experience and involvement with the public schools in the last 5 years that qualifies you to be a school board member. Ms. Allen.
Well, my personal experience with the school board, I have an event that I do. It's called Taste of West Louisville, where I invite local businesses out and they offer samples to the community, and we raise money for scholarships for kids in the Louisville area. And over the past 2 years, we have raised $5,000 and able to give 5 different children $1,000 scholarships. So I think that's a very good proponent on what makes me a good candidate for this position, because I have a heart for the student. I have a care for them, not just while they're in school, but their post-education as well. Another thing is I'm very involved with youth. I currently am active in my church. My husband is a youth pastor, so I spend a lot of time with our children. So I understand our children. I understand the community in which I serve because I live in that community. And I serve and I work in that community. I have various organizations that I volunteer with and I do service with. So by me being very active in the community, it shows that I have a heart for my people and I care for the people, and I would like to be the representation for the people.
Go ahead.
I've also been very active as a resident of Southwest Jefferson County. As I've already stated, a 2010 graduate of Atherton's Education Academy, I've been recognized. I have a few documents I'd like to share with our audience members here today. I've been recognized as a superstar volunteer for Jefferson County Public Schools by our former superintendent. I've been an Everyone Reads volunteer. I've served at Iroquois High School, Shawnee High School, Trundle Elementary, Eisenhower Elementary, Atherton High School, time and time again as a tutor and resource for them. While I was in high school, I was also the president of the Future Educators Association and also the Minority Teacher Recruitment Project, which really got my feet wet in this area of public education. I think what makes me uniquely qualified to serve is that I do have that history with Jefferson County Schools as a student, as an advocate, as an educator, and now hopefully as the people's representative on District 4's Board of Education.
Do you believe the school system should be run like a business? Why or why not? You can start.
Absolutely not. Education is not a business. The end game of business is to make money. The end game of education is to make a difference in the lives of children.
I think in order for the board to be successful with the salaries that they have to pay out and the different things that they have to pay, I would like to see the Jefferson County Board continue to operate as a business, because at the end of the day, it is a business. The board is a business, and our business is education. So we have to understand the business aspect of running a district so we can make the right decisions. Let's say, for instance, the teacher pay that was on hold over the summer, they renegotiated the contracts. I believe that it was a bigger issue than them just not wanting to pay the teachers. I think they wanted to, from a business point of view, they wanted to get paperwork and data so they can solidify and show and prove what they were saying. So it is necessary to run it like a business, because it is a business. Our business is education, is taking care of our students.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
There's an old saying that those who can teach, those who cannot pass laws about teaching. That's what we've seen on this board. We need someone who has experience as a student and has experience as a teacher on Jefferson County School Board.
Ms. Allen, would you like to, as a community member?
Well, I don't really think that being a teacher would necessarily give you the best representation of the district, because a lot of our constituents are not teachers. The board is not just for the teachers. The board is for the people, it's for the community, it's for our students as well. So being a teacher does not necessarily put you in a better situation or give you a better understanding of how a business or a board should be ran.
Yes, I'm not only a teacher, I also have a 13-year-old brother in the district, so I have that personal attachment as well, and I'm also an alumni of the district. I believe that combining my stake is having my brother, who's seated on the front row, a Jefferson County public school student who's suffering these issues currently in the classroom, a teacher who can give that voice to the teachers, and also as an alumni of the system, I am more qualified to lead this district.
Are either of you endorsed by labor union?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you are endorsed by a labor union, name one way in which you would differ from their views.
Well, I'm endorsed by a few different. Most notable is the Jefferson County Teachers Association. The other is the Greater Louisville Labor Council. When I sat down to gain both of these organizations' endorsements, I had a very honest and candid conversation with them. I said this, I'm an American history teacher. I had just come off teaching a lesson about the separation of powers in the classroom, so that might have had something to do with my answer. But labor unions, in particular the JCPS, they provide a useful check to the power of the Board of Education. Vice versa, the Board of Education provides a useful check to the power of the Jefferson County Teachers Association. I think that the two can work together collaboratively. But at the end of the day, you have to take a look and see who's right, who's wrong, and have the evidence present itself in such a way.
Do you have any endorsements of unions? And if not, I have a separate question for you, maybe related. What are you, Jefferson County does have a lot of unions. So you have the teachers are represented, you have, just last night, the food service nutrition workers are about to join a union.
think that the teachers should have a right to collective bargaining. I'm okay with JCTA. I feel as though without them, there's no telling what would be happening to the teachers, so they do need that union as kind of their muscle so they won't get, what's the next word? I don't want to see the teachers get put out and be in a bad situation, so I think the union protects them, and I think that is good because they do have a right to collective bargaining.
What about other unions, and this is for both of you, it's not just teachers, obviously there's bus drivers, there's classified staff, secretaries, maintenance workers. How important is it for you to hear their voices in addition to teachers?
It's incredibly important. They each provide essential services without which this district would cease to function. And I've had the honor to meet several of them, whether it be knocking on their doors in my district, or having them come up to me at community festivals, or meeting with them at different community organizations. We also must protect their rights as workers and their rights as valuable contributors to the school district.
Neither of you have children per se in JCPS. I know you said you have a brother. How important do you think it is to believe? How important do you believe it is to have board members who actually have children in JCPS? And what could you bring, even if you don't have children? I guess for both of you, since neither of you have children in the system. Go ahead.
I think it's incredibly important because that shows that you have faith and you have a stake in the public schools here in our city of Louisville. I'm only 25. I've not yet found the one. So when I have children, I can guarantee you they will be in Jefferson County Public Schools. Until then, I do have a 13-year-old brother. That's quite a big age gap. Sometimes I'm accused of being more of his dad than his brother. He's shaking his head yes right now. So I do feel as if I don't have children. Nolan, my brother, is kind of like my child, even though he's my brother. I want to see the right things done for him. But also a bit of a biographical sketch about me. Growing up, I lived in a fairly middle-class neighborhood on the Dixie Highway in South Louisville. Even though it was a fairly middle-class neighborhood, most of my peers went to private schools throughout the city of Louisville. And I think this is what inspired me to become a public educator and to fight for public education, is that they would routinely make fun of me for going to a public school. And I would say, but wait, when I go to my school, I'm taught how to interact with all levels of society, every type of person you can imagine. And that makes me more prepared for my future than attending a homogenous school. So with that drive for public education instilled in me, my kids are always going to go to a public school because I believe in the public school system.
Without getting too personal, I don't want to get into like why you have children or anything like that. But as a community member, I do think it's important also, obviously you want to run for this race. Why do you think that as a community member without children, it's important to have that representation on the board?
Because I have an unbiased opinion. I don't really have a stake personally, I would say, because I have my own personal children, but I consider myself to be a community mom. Any child I come in contact with, that's my child when I'm in they're in my care. So the fact that I do not currently have children, I don't think that really plays a part in my ability to serve on the board. I think it may actually serve in my favor because on those late nights when people have to go home and get their kids ready for school, I know. So that's
fair enough. Do you what do you see as I guess we'll start with the opportunities in Jefferson County Public Schools. And Ms. Allen, we'll start with you. What are some of the opportunities? And then on the flip side, what are some of the challenges? Let's start with opportunities.
Well, I think one of the main opportunities Jefferson County currently has is to decrease the student achievement gap for African American students. That poses a really large opportunity for us, and at the same time, that's also a challenge for us, mainly because I feel as though the board does not currently reflect the achievement gap African American students. There's one African American currently on the board, and I don't feel as though the people on the board maybe really even understand the communities in which the large achievement gap is in. I don't think they understand the communities because they don't live in those communities, they're not a part of the communities. I don't even know how often they visit the community. So I feel as though having someone on the board who frequents the communities with the largest achievement gap would be very beneficial and helpful.
Okay, and what about challenges? What are some of the challenges? I mean, obviously the achievement gap could be perceived as a
A main challenge we have is the behavior problem. For students, we have big behavior problems right now. So I think that in order for us to correct the behavior problem, we have to first understand why the students are behaving the way they do, because there's something going on bigger than what we know. Students don't just choose to just act out. There's issues that are going on. So I would like to see us try to build better relationships with the students so we can understand that student and see what's going on maybe in their home life to where they may be acting out.
Yes, I'd like to take just a few moments to respond to some of the statements pointed out in candidate Allen's response. The achievement gap affects all of us. This is my community as well as anybody else's. I want to ensure that every student it becomes not a product of that achievement gap or trapped in that achievement gap, but has the opportunity to raise themselves out of that situation. As far as frequenting the community, as I said, I've lived in Southwest Louisville my entire life, from birth in 1991 on. And I've also engaged in the community to help out those who suffer from the achievement gap. As a student, I was a proud member of Project One. Project One was a group that was started by Dr. Charles King in West Louisville. They met monthly at the Lyles Mall in West Louisville. And what that was, that provided an opportunity for youth to go down to Central High School every Saturday morning to take job placement courses, how to dress appropriately, how to write a resume, so on and so forth. And if you participated in that to the fullest extent, you were granted a summer job. I was granted my first summer job working in Project One, getting up early to go down to Central High School to learn those essential skills right here in Jefferson County Public Schools. At the age of 14, I became a tutor at the Duval Education Center in reading and math. From there on out, I've worked with ESL teachers in the ESL Academy at Shawnee, with recent immigrants at Zachary Taylor Elementary, and with those struggling to catch up to their grade level at Dobbs. An opportunity for us is our diversity. We should not run from our diversity. We should embrace it because it is a strength.
What about a challenge? What are some of the challenges?
I think a challenge that we face right now in Jefferson County Public Schools, there are obviously several leadership challenges. One challenge that I would like to work to resolve is again the challenge of discipline. But even more so than that, as Keisha stated, closing that achievement gap and the neighborhood schools and the busing issues has been an issue since the 1970s. If I had to choose just one of those, I know that's a lengthy list, I would focus on the busing issue. I don't know why in this era we can never quite reach a compromise or come to a middle ground. I believe that at the end of the day, education is about opportunity and creating opportunities. And with those opportunities, if one would like to attend the school closest to them and that school best serves their needs as a student or best serves the needs of their student as a parent, then they should have every right, and I do mean that, a right to attend that school. However, if the school in their community is not tailored to them as an individual, say a young person in Southwest Jefferson County wanting to go to Atherton High's Education Academy, they absolutely have that right to get on the bus early, to make those sacrifices, and to attend that school. Far be it from me to inhibit someone's ability to rise in this world at the schoolhouse gate.
Let's talk a little bit about busing, because I want to make sure that the understanding of busing and student assignment is understood. So clearly, the reason why Jefferson County has a student assignment plan is because of the Supreme Court decision and to make sure schools remain diverse. However, a lot of parents aren't choosing some schools, and that leaves some schools half open and others that are half full. How do you address that? Ms. Allen, you said you would also like to look at busing as well and perhaps change a student assignment plan. But how do you maneuver that with a limited budget, really, and the fact that there are parents that are choosing not to send their kids to some schools and choosing to send their kids to others?
Well, I think one way to address that issue, to my understanding, teachers with more seniority are able to select maybe the school they want to. So teachers are not selecting the schools that may be the priority schools or the schools that may be struggling. So they're not getting the best teachers. So of course a parent's not going to want to send their child to a school that's not getting proper education or subpar education as they may view. So maybe we should really address how we're letting teachers would seniority select schools. Maybe we should maybe not look at the priority schools as a punishment or a bad thing, but maybe look at it as a successful thing. Like, you've done such a great job, we want you to be here so you can get this school up to the level that the school that you're currently teaching at is at.
I think what this boils down to at the end of the day is a public image issue. Again, with me being in the schools and completing my teacher education program at Bellarmine University, I was in schools that most parents, if we're thinking stereotypically, wouldn't want to send their kids. But here's what happened when I was in those schools. When I was in those schools, I worked with some of the greatest teachers that you could ever imagine. Teachers who, when they came in, the kids came in, the students knew it was time to get to work, it was time to open up their books, it was time to read, it was time to learn. I also worked with some absolutely incredible students at these schools. At some of the, quote-unquote, persistently low-achieving schools, there are incredible opportunities for students. One needs only to look to Shawnee High School and the pilot program that they have there, teaching students how to become UPS pilots at age 14 through 18. That's an incredible opportunity. I don't know what parent wouldn't want their child to perhaps one day grow up to be a UPS pilot in the city of Louisville. I know that's a dream of my brother again. It's all about public image, and if we can get the right information out there rather than focusing on the negatives, we'll start to see that change.
Do you want to, I have another question unless you want to address anything else?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Courier-Journal recently ran a story about the need for comprehensive sex education to combat teen pregnancy and STDs and promote healthy relationships. Would you support the adoption of comprehensive sex education guidelines? Why or why not? You want to go first? Okay.
Yes, I would support comprehensive sex education because I remember when I was in school, we had sex education. I thought it would be very helpful, and I think that it's something that the children need to know because we have to understand that many of our children don't have the same type of mother, father, parent setup at home. Some of the kids are raising themselves. Some of the kids are being raised by grandparents and aunties and uncles who may or may not want to have that talk with them. So now they're out there lost without the information. So I think it's awesome if JCPS adopts that, so the kids can be informed, so they can know how babies are made, and they won't come up teen pregnancy. That's another issue that we'll have to fight with STDs and things of that nature. So I think the sexual education in the public school system is very, very needed, and I am a proponent for that.
I think that anytime you have the opportunity to educate yourself on any topic, that's an opportunity one should take. With that being said, I would also be in support of sex education in Jefferson County schools, comprehensive sexual education. But we need to be careful at the information that we're putting in front of students. We need to know that, yes, abstinence is okay. If that's not for you, make sure to protect yourself. We need to make sure that there's that balance so that we're not promoting one idea over the other in the realm of education.
This one is completely different area, but do you support charter schools? Why or why not? You can start if you'd like.
Sure. I wrestled with this issue quite a bit. But upon taking the opportunity to do my research and educate myself, I've come out against charter schools. I'm a fighter for the public education system, and I intend to keep public education public. And what we see with charter school legislation, what we see coming down the pike is a system in which the students who need the most help are often shown the door. I'm not a proponent of that style of public education. Public education must truly mean public. I'm not seeing it with the charter schools. Originally, I had seen it as an opportunity, a pro-competition environment, but in further investigation and taking a look at those hard facts, it seems to be a situation in which some students are shown the door and some students are kept. Again, that manipulation of data. So I would come out against charter school legislation and keeping our public schools public.
Ms. Allen.
I look at charter schools as an opportunity to give students and parents and families choices. I don't feel as though charter schools will necessarily hurt our public school system, because if there are students who are suffering and being left behind or not quite getting what they need from the public education students, maybe that's an opportunity for a charter school to step in and help them. although there may be data that shows otherwise from other organizations in different locations, the same data that you can find that's gonna debunk charter schools, you can also find the same data that's gonna help you and support charter schools. So I feel as though charter schools will actually help us, because JCPS is a very large district, and at this time, the state that they're in, it seems as though they're struggling and they need some help. So maybe charter schools will be able to step in and provide us a safety net for those students who are being left behind and not being serviced properly by JCPS. So once we have charter schools, then maybe JCPS can focus more on the students that are remaining in the public school system and really help them.
If you would like to, Roberta, I can do, just try to be brief with it.
Sure. Charter schools would disadvantage those very students that candidate Allen is speaking of. Charter schools self-select, meaning if the success of my school depends upon a healthy reputation in the community, the student that acts up is not going to be taught how to become a better student. That student will be shown the door. It becomes a system where the cream of the crop is kept and everyone else is told to go away. And it would disadvantage those very students that candidate Allen is speaking of.
I feel as though, since we're in the early stages of this and it's just being talked, I feel as though we can work with people who are proposing charter schools to make sure they have certain legislations that are written in to where what candidate Keith is speaking of will not happen. We can work as a team to better serve our students, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, giving the students what they need, making sure that they are prepared for the real world. So,
And we can do all of those things in a traditional public school.
We will go, let's talk about suspensions and the disproportionality of suspensions, particularly with African American children in the district. Much like the achievement gap, there's quite a difference between the two, and the district has really take a look at their code of conduct in the last year. There's been a lot of discussion about the behavior and discipline. Both of you have mentioned that as a challenge for the district. What are your views on suspension and how it can be addressed appropriately?
well, I feel as though before a child is suspended from school and removed from the facility, we should try to look at options like in-school suspensions, maybe go back to, how you say, after school for detention, things of that nature. Because at the end of the day, once a student is no longer in school, they are not able to learn in the same environment, they're not able to get what they need at home. And students who are already in an achievement gap, once you remove them from the school setting, the likelihood of them returning kind of lessens. So you don't want to propose more gaps and more stop gaps for that student to get the education they need by removing them from the school. So we want to try to keep them in school as much as possible so they don't have any breaks.
I took a minute in answering this question. I wanted to make sure I had my facts correct. This is the Jefferson County Kids Count data book from Kentucky Youth Advocates. They're a youth advocacy group in our state's capital down in Frankfort. And candidate Allen is correct. When we look at out-of-school suspensions, they tend to hurt and disproportionately hurt African American students. We need to take a look at discipline. We need to have firm discipline. We need to have a school system in which students enter the classroom and students know inherently that their teacher does in fact mean business, and that if they do not comply with appropriate behavior and appropriate behavior standards, that just consequences will be doled out. That's the first thing, is maintaining consistency. With a student, and I encounter it time and time again in my own classroom, consistency is key. We need to have a consistent metric on which to judge student discipline. One thing that I'm in agreement with candidate Allen on in this regard is having an in-school suspension in which students still have proper access to their education on a daily basis. I believe that when we kick students out of school, that's helping to promote that school-to-prison pipeline and also helping to widen that achievement gap. So again, with my plan as far as discipline, consistency is key. And we also need to take a look at the data that has proven that disproportionate attitude towards African Americans to be 100% correct.
Let's talk a little bit about the budget. $1.4 billion, as I'm sure you're both aware. And when you adjust for inflation, JCPS is operating on less funding than before the recession. We hear stories about teachers taking second jobs, fund programs aren't funded. So let's just cut to the chase. Would you, support a proposed tax increase in order, if it was justified, in order to benefit student achievement, safety, or equity? Ms. Allen, do you want to go first?
Yes, I would support a tax increase because that's generally where a lot of the money comes for our school system. But the most important thing that I would like to see us do is to be more transparent with the funds. I feel as though the taxpayers will be more receptive and be more willing to have the tax increase if they are understanding that their money is going to a good place. If they can see that their money is going toward a school and the students are actually becoming successful and they're graduating and they're getting good jobs, and they're like, okay, my money's going to a good place, but I don't feel as though that's happening. So to the taxpayers are like, why are you raising my taxes? The kids are not getting any better. The school system's not getting any better, so don't raise my taxes. So we have to show them what their money is going to.
And just a follow-up question on that, because I think you bring a good point. How important is communication with that particular thing? I think that I hear that often as a reporter. You know, why are you raising my taxes? What have you done to improve the school system? Why would this extra $15 a year, which doesn't seem a lot to a taxpayer, but they're willing to vote yes or no on that? What would you do to improve that?
I would like to see maybe a newsletter go out to our community or put it up on their website so they can see where the funds are going. And also, I think we need to review the salaries of the administration because when you are getting your taxes raised and you see that our school systems are not really improving, but you can see that there are people on the administration team that are making six figures, it really makes you scratch your head and go, so who's really making the money? So I think that we need to review our salaries in the administration, be more transparent with what the money's doing, maybe even give them like an income statement and a balance sheet, put it up on their website so they can know where their money's going to.
Okay.
Yes, transparency is of course very important, and I would be in support in any measure in order to make our board more accountable to the taxpayer. If you go to my website, east4jcps.org, you'll see my stance on taxation. Taxation, as Benjamin Franklin once said, nothing can be so certain in life as death and taxes. We know at some point we will have to raise taxes, but we need to do that deliberatively. We need to take a look at the programs that we are running in Jefferson County schools now, go through our budget with a fine-tooth comb, and see how we can take money away from Project X that's not as beneficial to the community and transfer those funds to Project Y that may be extremely beneficial to the community. If we can go through with that fine-tooth comb, again, and keep things transparent, I think that we'll see taxpayers more at ease in how their money is being spent, and perhaps we'll start to spend money more appropriately.
We have about 2 minutes left, and I was just going to maybe allow each of you guys a minute to kind of wrap up and just kind of talk to the community in District 4. Why do you think you're the best candidate for JCPS District 4? Whoever wants to start.
Sure. I believe that I am the best candidate for District 4 because, as I've stated several times throughout this evening, I am a lifelong candidate of Southwest Jefferson County. I'm a proud product of Jefferson County Public Schools, having attended Trunell Elementary School, K through 5, Lassiter Middle School, 6 through 8, as well as Atherton High School's Education Academy from 9 through 12. I've lived the JCPS experience, and my age gives me a unique qualification in that it's not yet been a decade since I graduated from Jefferson County Public Schools, just in 2010. So I have one foot firmly planted in the views of a JCPS student, and also 1 foot firmly planted as an educator, as someone who has experience in the school district, as someone who went to school to become a teacher, made it their lifelong dream to become a teacher. But why do we become teachers? We become teachers to serve students. We become teachers to serve children. That's why I'm running for this board. It's got to be kept all about the kids.
I feel as though I'm the best candidate for the position because I have a heart for my community. It's all about the children because the children are our future. I am not a lifelong Jefferson County resident. I did go to school in Jefferson, Indiana, through the great Clark County school systems, but in that experience, I was able to make very, very good relationships and really understand what good teachers are about. I think that understanding our kids and understanding their needs is a very important piece. And I feel as though I understand the students, I understand what they're going through, I understand where they are and where they've been, because I too have been in their position. That's what I aim to do. I aim to stand in the gap and be that voice for my community and represent my community and make sure that our children know that they are cared about, we care about them, and we are here for them.
Thank you both very much for taking the time, and if there's anybody else that would like to chat with them, I'm sure they'll make themselves available after the forum. Thank you very much